Welcome back to the Level Up Life, Muscle and Mindset Mastery. I'm your host, Adam Wittbrodt. Today's episode's a pretty meaningful one. Joined by my brother in recovery, Zach Brewer. Zach's father, a husband first, but he's an artist at his core. Tattoos, digital design, and creativity that tells a story. He's someone who's completely changed his life, and he's now living a life rooted in recovery and service. In the last few years, he's been waking up some long-lost dreams through his art, and watching that transformation has been nothing short of inspiring. Co-hosting, brother from another mother, right-hand man, Waz. Together, we're diving into redemption, creativity, and the power of purpose. Let's get into it. So Zach, welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for coming on.
Yep.
I know you pretty well, but a lot of our viewers don't. So give us a background. Who are you? What do you do? What do you like? What do you love?
Okay. Yeah, it's like hard to think where to start, I guess, with that question, right? But it's, I guess, the typical things where I'm from. I'm from Pinconning, Michigan. I don't usually admit that. Country town, I grew up with pretty normal living with that. My parents were together till I was 11 kind of thing. Went to Pinconning High School. And, I guess like when you think of people that know me, like you know me, the biggest things that come to mind were my life of addiction, which started at 11. And then, my life of recovery now. So some of that can be summarized now. We'll dive deeper. But yeah, started using drugs at 11 years old. And I did that till I was 27. And that had times where it was okay, where it worked out and it was actually fun. And then I had times where it took over my life completely. But besides that, we'll dive in. I'm a dad, big part of my life. It's probably the biggest part of my life. I have 3 kids. My daughter's 25. My two boys are 14 and 13. My youngest has autism and he's pretty not high functioning. He's pretty, needs a lot of help, so special needs. So that's a big part of my life. Husband, been coming up on 18 years with my wife this month, next week.
Awesome.
Yep. 18 years, which has been, I feel like we could do a whole half the podcast about that probably if we wanted to. I've been through every good and bad thing you can think of in a long relationship like that. And then, so dad, husband, recovery, and art, which is a total brought back to life thing, that I did when I was in my teen years, and then I didn't do it all on the hiatus of dope fiend addiction. And, now that's back in my life, and it's a huge part of my life, and I think that kind of summarizes like who I am, who I'd want to introduce myself as, and there's obviously a million things to that.
So what led you to, so for me, my recovery started with the courts. Like that was what thrust me into recovery, and abstinence the times before.
Yeah.
But when I got into recovery court, that's what kind of set the tone for my recovery. What was your catalyst? What got you in there?
Yeah. This might be a long answer.
That's all right.
Okay. So to back up a little bit of explaining that kind of starts with my dad, so my dad was a drug addict, bad. And, he was a piano man. He grew up classically trained pianist. He toured the nation with Bob Seger, keyboard player, but what hand in hand for that with him was addiction. And so, growing up, my parents were like, my dad had like, what do you want to say? He maintained his addiction. What am I trying to say? Like
he was a
functioning addict. Yeah. My dad was a functioning addict for about 11 years of my life. There was a couple times within that where he had overdosed, and one time this is when kind of the change happened with my family was I called the ambulance for my dad when he overdosed when I was only 11 years old. So they came and got him just me and dad, and so that was like, my mom was like, you got to go, you know what I mean? And from that, like my dad, it's also when I started smoking weed. At that same age.
11 was a big year for you.
11 was, man, it was the fork.
Yep.
There's another key note that I'll throw in here is my brother is 11 years older than me, and that played some role in some of this too. But So they split, and my dad didn't want to, but my mom booted him out. And then my dad just lived in, if anybody knows what the Empire Motel is in Bay City, that's where my dad lived till pretty much he died. But we had a relationship of, I knew what he did after that, and I knew how he lived, and I idolized that, as my dad. And so smoking weed, drinking is cool. And I guess I say all that to say, when I got really bad, my dad died when I was 18. Okay.
Same with me. My dad died when I was 18.
Yep.
And just to touch on what you just said, I was thinking, wow, because when my dad died, and even when my parents divorced, it was really he smoked weed, did hallucinogens, pretty much everything. But he was a big drinker, and I thought after he moved out, and it's kind of twisted logic, but I thought, I don't have a relationship with my dad. He had a relationship with drugs, and maybe somehow I'll be able to connect with who he was because of that. So.
For sure. Yeah, I remember the first time getting high with him, I thought it was the coolest moment, and then it was the scariest moment too, though, ever, when I was about 15, 16. And it was full of anxiety. I thought it was cool until it was happening. And I was like, oh, this is weird, But yeah, I can relate to you on that, man. That was a way I thought he'd be proud of that. And I mean, he even said shit like, you're a chip off the old block. And at the time, being young, it was like, cool, man. So this is what I got to do. This is all I got to do to get that kudos. You know what I mean? And so, he died at 18 and when I was 18. And so to, get back to your question, there was a few key things that that'll all make sense in a minute, that got me to get clean. So the last year of my using had a lot of key moments. One of them was I had a grow op, right before everything got legal with weed. I had a huge grow operation. And in that, chaos, that's how I made money. So I could really live however I wanted, which really fed my addiction. Made lots of money. It was involved in drugs, and I could use whenever I wanted, blah, blah, blah. Well, one morning, and this is peak addiction, full-blown alcoholic, pillhead. Weed was just part of it, right? But pills and alcohol, and I guess to give context, liquor at 7 a.m. and anywhere from 30 to 40 Norco a day, 12 to 20 Valium a day, normal. That's just functioning Zach. And so my wife had come downstairs, caught me in the grow op at 6:30 a.m. slamming a beer before I had to drive the kids to school. And it was it was a moment where because she just instantly started crying. And she knew I'm a partier and using all the time, but I think something clicked that day. It was like, oh, you're bad, because she just started crying, and something clicked in my head. It wasn't enough. Really, I just got defensive and angry at the time because I still wasn't healthy enough to understand. But that moment definitely did something in my head where I was like, Zach, you might have something to look at here, but then just kept on going. I know I ramble, so cut me off if you need to.
No, keep going.
A lot of drinking and driving, man, and I did that for years and just kept getting by, and thank God nobody got hurt. I never got hurt, but that summer I did finally get in trouble for drinking and driving. And so this is 2014. And so the drinking and driving incident got me to classes, right? It got me to these classes that were pass this and it'll be a DWI, not a DUI on your record. You got to do it for probation, that kind of thing. It was also the first time I'd ever been in trouble and jail and all that. And so I just skated by. I'd be in prison for life if I was caught for everything, but
right.
I skated by on a lot of stuff. So that was the first trouble I'd been in. And I'm at these classes. This is another key moment for me. I'm at these classes, and this lady, Jeanette, it's awesome. And these are just, everyone there is just get me the fuck out of here. I just need to get this done. And that's kind of how I was until the stuff started being shown on the screen and talked about drug addiction. I didn't know nothing, dude. I'd watch my dad, but I never thought about a problem really. And she's like, does anyone in here feel like they have any problems with any other substances. And it was the first time in my ever that my gut was like, I should tell them I'm addicted to pills. Like I never thought to tell anybody that. And I still didn't tell her, but it made me think that like really hardcore. I remember leaving and this sucks to say, but I mean, I had booze under the seat leaving those classes. I was still a full blown alcoholic. And so like, I remember leaving and thinking that, but then just getting drunk again and just going on. And so I passed those classes and got that all done. And then the very end of that summer, this is the last moment, really. This is what got me to get clean. I worked at Soul Dan's Pet Store in Bay City, and which also allowed me to use however I wanted to. I just got screwed up and scooped fish for people, and the one day I was having bad withdrawals, and as anybody in addiction knows or has been through addiction, I mean, I went through withdrawals 1,000 times. But this time I was at that level I just told you guys, the amounts, the level, and I couldn't afford it no more, man. I couldn't afford to stay not sick even. I wasn't even really didn't seem like I was getting high or anything was fun anymore. I just was trying to not be sick. And I was at work. I left on a break and I went to a dope house and I bought everything I could afford off this guy. And I went back to Soul Dan's. I was in the parking lot. I had a pint of Jaeger and I had this handful of pills and I was staring at it and I was just like, this ain't even gonna get me through 24 fucking hours, man. I could cry thinking about it right now. Like I knew in the moment, like I'm just gonna be sick again tomorrow. And I spent everything I got. No checks coming. The bills ain't paid. I can't buy food for my family, and this ain't gonna get me through. And so I was gonna ration that shit out, and I just decided to take it all, and I slammed the whole pint, and I hope to God I died. That was a real suicide attempt. And what happened from that was I went to I passed out. I blacked out in the back room of my job. Now, because I was always so lit, they just took me home. Like, they didn't take me to the hospital or anything. They're just like, oh, this is what I think anyway. They're just like, well, that's Zach. Zach's like that. So they took me home, and thankfully, now I can say thankfully, I woke up 18 hours later in my futon, in my own house, and it was my two boys that woke me up. And that's what brings us back to the whole why it mattered to my dad story, because when my boys woke me up, everything that my dad's life was and what I watched my dad do flooded me. It flooded my heart. It flooded my brain. And I was like, I'm not fucking doing this to my kids. And I went to, I called a couple people. I didn't know how to get help. Okay. So like some people know, I didn't know there was a thing called a detox in life. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know rehab and AA were like things in movies. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't really know what to do, but I did know I just tried to kill myself. And so my one friend said, go to the hospital and tell them that. And I said, okay. This story is just going to keep going. So that was the first time, like there's all these moments now from this where I was just like, okay. Right. So as soon as my friend said, go to the hospital and tell them that, okay, that's the first like surrender and willingness I'd ever experienced. I think like, just shut up and do what people are telling you to do. So I go to the hospital, tell them I tried to kill myself. I went to Saginaw cause I don't trust Bay dead there, Bay Med. And, I went to Saginaw Covenant. I told them what I did, and that triggered the suicide squad, right? They all rushed in, arms up, all white coats, and I never experienced that before either. And I was real compliant, though, and they put me in. They actually took me to the Midland Orchard House at the time. I don't think it's called that anymore. But they took me to that mental institution. And in there, the nurses told me, hey, yeah, you might have mental health issues for sure, but what you really need to do is get help for addiction. And this was the next, okay, you know what I mean? Whatever you say, like I have no clue what to do with my life anymore. Sounds good. So these nurses sat with me and called every rehab in the state And I withdrawed in the mental institution, by the way. I went through all my withdrawals there, and it was terrible. Couldn't take 2 steps without shitting myself. You know, the only thing they gave me was Valium, and it was okay. I mean, I was at least just able to. That's where that happened, though. It didn't finish in there either. I was only there for 4 days. So, but anyway, we call every rehab in the state. You know, so now while I'm in there, an old friend of mine brought me clothes to the mental institution. Okay. God, this shit is it means so much to me. This stuff that was like God, it's all God. My friend that I grew up with, that most of the times I tried my first drug was in his house, right? He brings me a bag of clothes that I needed from my house reluctantly because he didn't want, I don't know, he didn't want to do it, but he brought me it. And in the bag, he put his Narcotics Anonymous book. And it had no cover, so it was the black. I always thought that when people say the blue book, I'm like, that bitch is black. Like mine was, as soon as I got mine, I ripped it off too. That's a black Narcotics Anonymous book. And he wrote me a letter, and he said, if you don't do anything, read the first chapter at least of this book, Who is an Addict, right? If anyone's ever read that book's like somebody wrote about you if you're an addict. And I read that, and in the letter he said, too, you should go to 1016 rehab because that's where he went. So I didn't know what that book was. I didn't know what 1016 was, but I'm like, okay, I'll do the next thing I'm told to do. And I trusted him too. And that's why I say the God thing, because God put him to do that for me. Because a lot of people I might have been like, yeah, whatever. But
I'm sure you had the friends that might have tried to stash some drugs in there.
That's what I was waiting to hear right there.
Yeah. Nope. Brought me the good stuff. Brought me, this is what you need, homie. You know? And he knew it. And I looked up to Derek. It was Derek. And so anyway, I read that letter. I did it. So 1016 was, they all were booked. This is crazy to think about right now. Every single rehab we called had no spots, 0 spots. Must have called 8, you know, all the ones you can think of in Michigan. And so 1016 says, hey, there's a guy who's supposed to have intake tomorrow. If he doesn't show up, you can have his bed. And I had the wits about me still. I remember praying that night in the mental institution for that guy to get a bed. Because, like, I don't need to take someone else. Like, I'm not going to hope he doesn't. But he didn't show up. And I got that spot. That was also after the mental institution let me stay an extra night. They said I was the only person that ever asked to stay another night at the mental institution. But we stayed a night. They called. They said, yup, you can have the bed. And the cook at the time there came and picked me up. And a cook picked me up, took me to the rehab, and I was just still willing and surrendered. But I think I've gone past now what you originally asked.
No, I love it, man. That's it's phenomenal stuff, because there's a lot we could go into just unpacking different parts of that. That I'm sure a lot of our audience doesn't really know the depths to what addiction is, for one. Mm-hmm. And it's really individualized, but I think it could also be like our listeners, a lot of them could relate to what you're saying, you know, like you get to that point, and I don't know if it was like this for you, but it was that for me. It was someone told me, and you were instrumental in my early recovery, man. So thank you. Mm-hmm. I remember our talks, come in early for pizza by the slice or recovery by the slice, and come in, sit in your office with you. We had some real good talks that stuck with me. Mm-hmm. But where was I going with this? Everybody's recovery is very individualized. Mm-hmm. And I think it matters because relate, don't compare.
Yep.
So
100%. Even what you just said. So yours happened by the courts. Mine happened by an emotional connection to my dad and blah, 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 right? Like that's what, in a suicide attempt. But it doesn't matter. See, people can show up to recovery from any walk of life. Mm-hmm. I can't stand when people get like, oh, they're just here to get their paper signed. Dude, that person might just find it from getting their paper signed, you know? You sit there long enough and you start hearing some shit you need to hear.
Somebody shares something that you grab.
Yep.
Right? Like,
yep.
I know we talked when I sat down with you there a couple months ago. Most of the AA, I didn't like it. It was like trading war stories.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wasn't fully bought in, man, I just wanted to go get hammered afterwards. It was like, hey, let's create another good time. Except for what was Chapel Lane Presbyterian. And there were two old boys there. And I mean, they both had been in their 70s. One was blue collar. It was my dude. The other one was very, very white collar dude. Both of them just pierced through my soul as they talked. And I related both so much to each one of them and what they had to say. That was the first time that because I was on the line at that point, you know, of taking it serious.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because you don't know.
No.
And that one, the way it was structured, or at least the people that went, it wasn't trading war stories. It's how do we get better? Because most of the other ones that I went to, a dozen and a half different places, I couldn't see how it helped. And I know a lot was my mental state. You know, some of them I was going to get my paper signed, you know, the first handfuls.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was taking it serious, still most of them, I'm like, man, this is brutal. Like, this is not helping my strength at all. That one was. And I credit to both those two old timers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so the principles that underlie, the program, I think is what really helped me.
Yeah.
And in what we do, training people.
Oh, yeah.
In general, not just, it doesn't have to be substances. It can happen whether it's a behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go for me, it was a coping mechanism for emotional pain. I've seen other people reach for, rather than the bottle or the spoon or, whatever their drug of choice is, I see them reach for food.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes that comfort. I actually was just listening to a Jay Shetty podcast with Jelly Roll on.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about how food became his.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I'm sure you've heard they put down the needle and picked up the fork.
Put down the spoon, picked up the fork.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
So I think it just becomes a coping mechanism and comfort.
Yeah. Yeah, well, to back up a little bit, and still on that note, I got such a huge, broad view of recovery. Like, so I don't just mean, I know we're talking about 12 steps, but like, I don't even mean just that. Like, recovery is like, so for example, once I got clean, left rehab, my recovery involved a shit ton of therapy, the gym. Okay. I got to tell you, and I'd tell anybody that knows me, I don't give a shit what it looks like. The gym has probably been the most vital thing next to working, step work, journaling. The gym is absolutely vital to my program of recovery. Mm-hmm. The program of recovery is what I'm saying. That isn't just 12 steps. It's like I went to therapy twice a week for 18 months. I did service work in different areas and aspects. I did, I go back to the rehab, give back, sponsor people. It's so much more than that. And I know both of you know this. I had to change like everything, who I hung out with, what I involved myself in, the type of work I do, like everything had to change. So being in recovery, quote unquote, isn't just going to a 12-step program. Like, we know that, we could talk about that all day. I mean, I'm not saying it because you're you guys either. They took me to the gym and rehab. It was the first time I ever worked out in my entire life. 27 years old. I hated gym dudes. Mm-hmm. I thought they would beat me up and take my girlfriend. Like, that's my view of high school. Taught me that's a jock that's going to pick on me. You know what I'm saying? And then, like, 27 years old, rehab takes me to the gym. I fell in love with it. There's a couple guys that you both know that I was going with, and it was like, this feels great. Talk about natural dopamine, because all I'm seeking is dopamine anyway, and I just didn't know it. So the gym is like therapy, put me under 300 pounds and talk and see how mad I am after, because I feel a lot better, put some weight on top of me. And then and then it went hand in hand with how I eat. I'm still a heavy dude, but it helps me. If I want to lift heavy, I know I need to eat right. If I want to blah, 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 it's like, if I want to be able to run, I can't be so big, you know? So they go hand in hand with that. And the whole lifestyle, I'll say this, call it an overstatement. I think every single person I know in long-term recovery exercises in one form or another. I swear to God, it's part of a recovery program.
Well, I think physical,
Physical,
intellectual, like how am I educating myself?
Yep.
Which I geek out on fitness stuff. I'm reading PubMed studies, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So then you have the emotional stuff, so the gym is that for me too.
Mm-hmm.
It helps balance me emotionally. And then it becomes, the gym is a spiritual experience for me because I can, whether I'm engaging in fellowship with the people around me, the community, or if I'm just earbuds in, jamming out, working out, it's like, it's a meditative state for me where I can clear my mind. And if I have big decisions to make post workout, I'm always clear head, ready to tackle the rest of my day. So
Yeah.
it's a core component for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The gym and the woods is where I am closest to God.
Church. Woods
Amen.
are church.
Yep.
Yeah.
Both for me. I mean, that is where I get my most earnest, realist talk and praying with God.
Mm-hmm.
Are both those spots.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I mean, rare where I will touch my phone in either places, right? It's ignored. It's like no disruptions, especially the woods, right? When I'm walking the dog and she's so good that I don't even really have to pay any mind to her. But that's me and God through and through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's two thoughts I have just from what you said and what you said. First was yours with community. And then the next is I yelled church, but church can be anywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Man,
I don't go to normal, typical church. Church is like the mountain in my mind, man. And the woods is a good spot to find it. But community, you said that, like the community in the gym. This is an epiphany I've had since just being clean for a long time. When I say that being clean for a long time, it matters that I've stayed clean consistently because I'm able to compound my epiphanies and knowledge, if that makes sense. If I used right now, it would set me back. People don't always agree with that, but anyway, staying clean for a while, I've learned some things. And one of them is communities really matter. It's why gangs work. Okay? Because we need people. And I come from fuck everybody. Mm-hmm. I don't want nobody. I don't want anybody to help me. Leave me alone. I don't need that. I don't want your opinion. Like I said, it was the first time I ever accepted what I should do. A suggestion was 27 years old, right? It was always, nope, I got this. But community is so important, and it changes humans when you've got that. So the gym community, the recovery community, I'm a big part of a music fan base community. I mean, for real though, you can connect that way, and it's just like having something in common with people and being able to chat. That's why churches work too, church families, all that. We do need people. I had to drill that into my head, and that didn't happen in my first couple years clean or nothing either. I was still like, fuck these people.
Oh yeah. I mean, the similarities, right? That we have found the more and more we know each other, where it's like, damn, you've been stalking my life Facebook or what? Because I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
One of my realest first deep conversations with Buddy was hating people. No, you don't. I'm like, Buddy, I'll beat you up right here. Dude, I hate people, right? Until he got me out of my little 3-foot world. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I don't hate people. I want to, right?
Yeah.
Building that wall, but it wasn't real, right? That wall's not there. I could reach through it.
Yep. Well, it's such a, and I don't want to say it's a guy thing or a man thing. It's definitely a human thing, kind of a man thing to just be like, I don't need help. I don't want help. I got this. That's how I was raised. That's how my mom raised me. My mom raised me to be that way. It wasn't my dad. It's like my mom was like, bullheaded, work your ass off, don't ask nobody for nothing. So to say to Buddy or to you guys and say, hey man, I'm struggling with this. Could you got any advice? Just sounds old me sounds like weakness, right? To now me, it's the quickest and fastest and bestest way to get to the result is to ask somebody who might have some experience on it. You know, it's just
It's a
like
strength
Oh yeah, it's
to
absolutely
be
a
able to
strength.
reach out and ask. When you talk about, I was thinking it's society, right?
Yep.
Your mom raised you like that, but as men, when I reflected on my past, when I was in treatment, and even still, I look back at the catalysts that have triggered relapses post abstinence, not recovery.
Yeah.
So it's always been death of loved ones. So I always felt like I had to have that strength. I'm a guy. I got to be strong. I can't cry. You know, that
Yep.
type of mentality. And it's the same, like what you guys are talking about. I don't need help with this. I can get this. You know, even today, there'd be something heavy that needs to be lifted at the house, and I'm like, I got that by myself.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I have stepsons that can help.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yep.
it's still pounded into us by society, and it's one of the things I'm trying to make known. Like we can cry, right?
Yeah. No
we can,
shit.
you know,
Should.
that's what I learned in the program too, in recovery in
Yeah.
general, being in treatment, is seeing dudes cry, and like I respect it now.
Yeah.
If you're able to open up emotionally like that, I feel like, wow, you're strong.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and it's part of being like being a good dad and being a good husband for me, being able to be that way with everybody, especially my family, and not be like, I don't know, I don't want to be cold hearted, man. I care. You know what I mean? So like when you end up so walled up, like Dave said, I got walls around me. It seems like you don't care, and I don't ever want to be looked at that way. I do give a shit, and yeah. Lost my train of thought on that.
yeah, you give a shit.
Oh yeah. 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 My mom used to say that about my godmother. So both my parents are passed, and my godmother's around, and she's an awesome old little hippie lady, man. Like super, super hippie. Like lived the vagabond life, right? Like anyway, and my mom used to say this about her. Her name's Gwen. She said, you know what I like about Gwen is she gives a shit. And that she does. She like cares with her whole heart. And so like I try to give everybody that attention, you know what I mean, in the moment. And it's like even, you guys working out with somebody, like half of that's therapy. I almost guarantee it. I tattoo somebody, half of it's therapy. You listen and give a shit about humans, and shouldn't, I don't know. So yeah, we should be able to cry.
I learned that in just building a network of people
Yep.
in recovery, and just even outside of recovery, is people do care in the moments, especially early recovery, that people would reach out to me. Hey Adam, I haven't seen you at this location in a while. Just want to see if you're doing okay.
Yep.
How awesome that was,
Oh,
like
yeah.
to be seen and to be noticed. And I'm like, all right, I need to do that for people too. So by people who had already been there, one big name, Andy, and he would check in on me. What, how you doing?
Yeah.
So how big of an impact that had on me, I implement that in my life. I have a thing that I do. It's just, if I have someone I haven't seen in a while pop in my mind, it's a God thing. Reach out
Absolutely.
to that person. They may need it.
Yep.
So I try and make the point, even if it's a quick text. Hey, do you lift, bro? Random text.
Yeah.
Do you even lift, bro?
Yeah.
And start a dialogue, and then
Yep.
they know I'm thinking of them.
Yep.
So
Wow, that could spark 1,000 thoughts for me. That thought right there, because I do the same thing. Okay, and like, and I want to say too, real quick, like when I say God, like I think that I have a really broad, open view of God too. That word makes sense to me. I didn't like that word for a long time, but like God has 72 names, in my opinion, man. And that's the name I choose to use. But, you know, I just don't want anybody to get it twisted. What I view of God would take a little while to explain, you know. But anyway, God, that is a God thing. And when I think of people, I do the same thing. And I think when there's that thing that's like, man, I should start a podcast, and it rung through your head, and then it happened again, and it happened again. It's the same thing. It's the same thing as texting that person. I should probably do that. It keeps popping up.
Yep.
You know, the things that weigh heavy on your heart. I should start a training business. You know, and it keeps popping up. And that's what mine do. And then all of a sudden, I start to do it, and all the doors open up easier than anything else has ever happened. Because I was supposed to do it, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, that's that stuff. God and the universe will put that right in your face.
Now let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, Pine Haven Assisted Living. At Pine Haven Assisted Living, they believe in making every resident feel at home. Nestled in the peaceful countryside of Hemlock, Michigan, they offer compassionate care in a family-like environment where residents can enjoy independence with the support they need. Registered nurse-owned and operated, their team provides personalized care, home-cooked meals, and a range of activities to ensure your loved ones continue to live a fulfilling life. They also have alpacas and llamas on site to enrich the lives of their residents. Experience the warmth and comfort of Pine Haven. Call them today at 989-295-6632. That's 989-295-6632. Or you can visit them on their website at pinehavenassistedliving.com. That's pinehavenassistedliving.com for more information. Now, back to the Level Up Life. So we're both really blessed with what we get to do, man. I know I speak for myself. You can speak on yours, but being able to go to the gym every day, and like, I'm naturally extroverted, so being able to engage with people and fulfill my purpose of helping others, whether it be, you know, fitness related, which is the prime purpose there, or it be just, you know, just helping people navigate their daily life in one way or another. It's super fulfilling. And sometimes I literally, I'm driving in today and I'm just like, can't stop smiling because I truly love what recovery and just everything has kind of funneled me into this position in my life where I'm having a blast doing everything, you know.
Dude, if you're going to go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I got like goosebumps listening to that. So I've had a lot of thoughts lately about like enjoying my 24 hours, right? Like what is the point? If I could die tomorrow, if I could die when I leave here in the car, shouldn't my daily life just be like something I enjoy to the max, you know? Like, I don't like the idea anymore of trying to work my ass off my whole life to have a retirement. Like, I've just exited the rat race. And so like what you just described to me is you've created your universe. You've created a 24-hour span that you like daily. Why shouldn't it be that way? Every person, I know you guys listen to the same stuff. Every person we follow that's like an influencer or even a famous person, they say the same shit. You can create your own world. You can do whatever you want every day. Right. Or like, it's always the same key things that they talk about that got them there. And, I've implemented that stuff, dude. And it's like, money isn't the goal. So if money's not the goal, money's like the thing that happens from doing what you love. It's just like the energy exchange. You know what I'm saying? That'll happen. But the focus should be doing what I like, having a daily life I enjoy, and taking care of the people I love. Right. Yeah. And like, I don't know. That's what got me. Everything you just said is what got me to that thought.
Yeah. So you get to do art, man.
Yeah.
And you're good. Like, I've seen some, you know, tattoo here.
Got the upside down.
Seen the black sleeve.
Yeah.
He did on Nick.
Yep.
And that coming along, that looks sick, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, no, I can't do it because then I'm copying Nick.
Yeah.
But-
he took Midland's
Yeah.
blackout. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's sweet, man.
Yeah.
And so let's go through your art here.
Yeah, we can. I want to say this too before we do that. So okay. So like art, I bet you've always wanted to do something. Helping people has always been my kind of thought, like that's the core of it. And I get to do that in a different way with tattoos, but art in general is what I've always wanted to do. One of the earliest memories I have in my life was my first daycare doubled as an art center. Like, so my mom would drop me off at a place to babysit me, but it was based on art and we drew the whole day. Right. And so like, I remember I like don't remember a lot of my childhood, but like a lot of the key moments have to do with art. Like I remember going on this train that was like a moving art museum and seeing Da Vinci's work for the first time and like seeing this person like put a pencil on the paper, went like this, pulled it off, and they measured it and it was perfect in every exact way, a freehand circle, like stuff like that blew my mind. And so I've always wanted to do art and I filled books of art when I was in my teens before addiction. Like when addiction
How many do you still have?
I got them all, dude. I have
Really?
everything.
Awesome. Dude, I had 5 or 6 because I
Yeah.
was the same way with art.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
don't have a one.
I got them
do
all. Dude.
not
I'm,
have-
so- I'm
well,
sorry to say it
I
to you,
have,
but I got 'em
I
all.
have a notebook one, but
Yeah.
that was,
Yeah.
they're gone. I don't know what happened to them all.
Yeah. I even named one Lungs Full of Lint, and it's got poetry and art, and that shit is dark. Like, don't let a therapist get their hands on that book.
Oh, yeah.
Or the cops, because but it's cool that I have it, And my point was that I've always loved art, man. And then addiction just killed it. Addiction killed that. It killed making beats. I love making beats with music. But yeah, I get to come back now.
Joe Walsh, right? The
Okay.
music artist, and was hearing he was on something, and he says, got to a point, you quit doing drugs. The drugs are doing you.
Yeah.
And how many years of touring? He couldn't tell you a single thing that happened, right? And he was talking about that with his artistry, of playing and singing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that same thing.
Yep.
Like, it kills it.
Yep. Yeah, it was the factor if I analyze my dad's life. So he classically trained pianist, could play he could hold a conversation with you playing Beethoven, and that's no joke. Like just play anything but dude, heroin and pills. He liked it more. It's like that was what held him back from ever getting big or famous with it. I that's what I feel. He just couldn't kill that demon. And all of his bandmates have told me the same thing, But yeah, it killed it. Luckily, I brought it back.
Yeah.
Should I talk about a little bit of how I got back into art?
Yeah, let's hear it.
So COVID was a game changer for me. I know it was a terrible thing in a lot of ways. And so don't get me wrong on that, but it allowed me some time to like tap into some shit that I hadn't tapped into in a while. But back up a little bit. I got clean. I was like a year clean. I was like, I wonder if I could make beats still. Because beat making to me, making music was, let's take methadone all night and make beats till I finally pass out. So it was always drug induced. And so I didn't even know if I could draw or make music clean. It was like scary. You ever experience that in other stuff too? It's like relationships or whatever. It's like, well, I don't even know the last time I drove clean, you know? Everything's so new. So tackling something like creative and that it was inspired from depression, darkness, and drugs, typically, can I do that even still? And so the first thing I did was I actually tried to do something, it was like 10 months clean because I had already gotten Serenity tattooed on my knuckles and I drew my hand. And what I always wanted to be able to draw was realism. It's hard. It's hard though. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna draw my hand. I sat there in my house, my kids running around, and I drew my hand, and I was like, that's the best thing I've ever drawn. From books of art, all those years as a teenager, I was like, that's the best thing I've ever drawn. Holy shit. I think I can draw. I think I can draw better. And so it was like exciting. But fast forward, I kind of didn't do much with it. I'm like early recovery, going to 6,000 meetings a week and, just trying to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But COVID, so I get clean 2014, end of 2019, or like mid 2019, I started drawing our friends. And I don't know if you guys, I think we have one we're going to bring up, but if you guys have seen those, I was drawing a bunch of our friends for fun. I drew Yancer, was the first one that I drew, was Buddy, and just messing around. It came out good, kind of cool. It was kind of good. It kind of sucked, but it was fun. And then then I sold one of those, and that was the first time I ever sold a piece of art in my life. And I was like, I can sell art, I can make money doing that. And so that's kind of really what did it. COVID gave me a lot of time to develop. I got into digital art, and my friend bought me some digital tools, a pen and a stylus and this pad, and I would draw on my computer. And that was really what kind of sparked like stuff we'll be looking at, Yeah.
So what's this one right here?
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to, I don't know if there's a way to do these in order. If not, that's okay. But that's okay. No, this one's good to talk about.
Okay.
So this was like, I drew my hand. And the reason I wanted to show you guys this today was this is after I got a digital pencil. And this was like, oh my God, I think I can actually really draw. And now I can look at this right now and actually think it's not that good. But at the time, it blew my mind that I could draw it. You know what I'm saying? And then there's another one in this same kind of round of pictures. That's another eyeball. Yeah, that one. Okay. This was the 2 years later of progress in kind of the same subject, another eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this was this is like my magnum opus of art. This is like my favorite thing I've ever drawn still. And I've made a bunch of copies of it, posters of it, sold a bunch of prints of this. And it's got to do with, to break down the art piece a little bit. A, it was how much better can I draw an eyeball?
Right.
But then B, it's actually a huge image. And when you zoom in, there's a little white rabbit.
Yep, see the rabbit.
Yeah, there's a little white rabbit chilling on the eyelid. There's a spider in the corner there. And then there's mushrooms at the bottom. So this whole line of art, there's a few more in this line that's called Alice's Brew. And this just had to do with childhood movies and drugs. Yeah, if you click that top right one, that's another one.
Wondering too, I was obsessed back in the day with eyes, drawing eyes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I never thought of it. Was it the hallucinogenic type thing? Or was it just whatever drugs? I mean, I've seen it a lot of other places too, right?
Yeah.
So can't limit it to, we were addicts and we liked eyeballs, right? But it's crazy seeing it where it's like, whoa.
Well, eyes matter. Eyes matter. There's no rules to art, and somebody will argue that. Mm-hmm. I believe there's no rules to art. There are these things though. If you're gonna make something that should have a sentient being that you can relate to, it's got to have eyes. There's something to be said about the eyes, for sure. Like that's how you can connect to a dog. Yeah. It's that. And so the other thing I wanted to say from those two pieces, the two eyeballs, the other reason I drew that first one was, DW Brutal is the name of my channel, right?
Yep,
yeah, right
here.
there. Yep. DW Brutal. What that started was Doodle with Brutal. It actually started with Drawing with Bruin. But it became Doodle with Brutal, and it was like I wanted to teach kids how to draw simple stuff. In that, I was watching other YouTube channels as I was making mine of other people and how they teach and how they draw. And this guy said something that stuck with me, and I listened and did it. And he said what changed his whole art career, and even way past that for this guy, was to draw the same thing every day for a year. And so he started drawing, don't quote me, I think it was a bird. He started drawing this bird. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And it became comics and everything. So what I took from that was I'm going to draw eyes until I'm really good at them, And eyeballs are about the only thing I can tattoo without a reference to. I can do eyeballs no problem. But anyway, so I drew eyes. I didn't do a full year, but I drew eyes every day till I got really good at it. And it did change it changed what it made me realize is the more effort, time, and details you put into anything in life, including art, it's going to be better. Like attention to detail really matters, time spent. It's like
Practice.
That first one probably had an hour in it. The next one had 13 hours in it. You know what I'm saying? That bigger Alice in Wonderland one, they had 13 hours of work into it versus an hour. So of course it's going to be better. That was a big epiphany from that. And that's why the eyeballs thing too. Yeah. This one, you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay. This one's got a lot to talk about too. First of all, what the art is itself is, again, inspired from childhood stories. This is part of the Alice's Brew collection. So there's an Edward Scissorhands hand in the center, which you can kind of see if you really look. But the rest of this drawing, dude, is the hair of the 9 muses. Okay. So the 9 muses are the daughters of Zeus in Greek mythology, and they're the muses and the goddesses that whisper in the ears of artists and writers. Okay. So I actually, no joke, and I've never not done this, I pray to the 9 goddesses before every tattoo. And the prayer is, "Oh, divine muses, goddesses, I'm a broken man and an old sinner. Whisper in my ear, guide my pen, sustain this psalm, help me tell the tales of man." It's just, it's the same thing I say every time. And I kind of like envision it. The 9 muses were one of them that's coming to hang out with me for the day and giving me some guidance, So this was a dedication to them. It's all their hair just mixed into this painting. And, but that was a life-changing thing from the book, The War of Art, not The Art of War, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And that's where I learned about the prayer. And that whole book's just about focus. Like, beating procrastination. He calls it resistance, but like beating procrastination, punching into your own job, being your own boss, and how to dedicate. Yeah. So that was a life-changing book that even inspired art. It inspired a prayer that hangs on my wall I read every day when I get to work. Like, it was a big thing for me.
I had a book that I read in treatment that changed my life.
Yeah.
By Bruce MacArthur called Why Your Life Is the Way It Is and What You Can Do About It. So then it got into some, I can't remember his name. He was a clairvoyant. But it dove into the universal laws. Right. And this is where I started getting into, I can visualize stuff and just believing in myself, period. Is what I simplified it to. And it talked about law of attraction. And I credit that book because there's a purpose workshop in it that really kind of funneled. It asked all these questions. I had to write all these things down, and it funneled, it led me to a point where I was like, literally my purpose is just to help people. One of the questions was, would you enjoy doing this small task and helping someone, whatever it is? Yes. I enjoy holding the door open for people. That's what I always reference, because have you ever been at the gas station? You're walking in, you see someone coming up behind you, they're a ways off. They can get the door. No, I'm the type of guy that's like,
I'm the same.
Come on,
Absolutely,
and it's awkward, and then they go into the slow jog to get to the door, so they don't make you wait.
Yeah.
And that fulfills my purpose.
Yeah.
Doing what I do for a living, same thing, fulfills my purpose. So, and that all came from what I learned in this book.
Yeah.
So,
that and like I almost said it earlier, but it sounded like cliche, but really like it is that. Sometimes cliche things are cliche because they stand the test of time.
Yeah.
So like law of attraction and stuff like that sounds, but it really is like that. Like I can just guess that you probably envisioned what this would look like, and here it is, right? Might not be exactly, might be damn close to what you thought it was going to look like, and here you are doing it. It's like, let me tell you this little sidetrack story. Getting my shop now, my studio. I've had a home office and an official LLC for like 5 years, right? But I always wanted something that was my own. And when I was looking for this studio, it was funny because I was talking to Karen, Will and Karen. I was talking to Karen about this. We're out to eat with a bunch of people, and I'm like, yeah, I think she's a realtor, so I'm like, maybe she can tell me where to get a shop. I need to rent something. And anyway, from that conversation, I started to really think about it. It was like way back there, but after I said it out loud to her, it was like right here, right? And then I was like, I really think I should get a shop. Now Karen's expecting me to. No. But I mean, part of it is that, like, you put something out there and vocally, and it has power. And so I started picturing what this place would look like. And then I got the details of what it had to have legally for the Department of Health, right? And so it had to have a standing water sink. It had to be so big. And I'm looking at all these places to go, I'm going to places and checking them out. And I go and check out this one, and I even had a vision of the color of the damn place, like white and gray, And when I walk in, and I'm telling this landlord in Bay City, well, it's got to have a standing sink and, whatever. We walk in through the door. I look left. There's the standing sink, and it's white and gray. And I just started laughing, I'm just laughing. This landlord's like, what? And I said, this is exactly, and this will make me cry thinking about it right now. This is exactly what I need. And I didn't know, talk about crying, dude. It was such a weird moment. I had the Department of Health come and inspect me, and I passed, and I got my license, and I, paid all this money, and I was legit. The day she came and did all that, and when she walked out of the door, I cried like the hardest I've cried in so long. I didn't even know it was there. I didn't even really know why I was crying. It was like, I think I've been working towards something like that so long and didn't realize it, And she walked out of there, and I felt like I was doing what I've always wanted to do for myself. And I just, I power cried.
Tears of victory.
Oh my God, bad. Yeah. Like the hyperventilating crying.
That's good cry. Though.
Oh yeah.
Like you feel energized after.
And I didn't know it was there. I didn't know that thing was seated in me waiting. It was probably since like 16. You know what I mean? I always wanted to do tattoos, dude. I did my first one on somebody when I was 16. And I just let that dream die. But anyway, yeah. Got that place, I envisioned it all, and it's like, here it is. Just like this podcast, now we're doing it. It's really cool. Right. So that stuff does work.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, the therapeutic, right?
Yeah.
Getting to hang out with you that night for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Right. There was probably deeper counseling both ways, that whole time. Like I came out of it with an amazing tribute to my mom.
Yes.
Right. But when I was there, it was more, and I mean, we talked some about my mom, you got to share about your mom, and how they were both with us the whole time.
Oh yeah.
And I remember you saying before we got sidetracked at the very end, right, that they were both right there.
Oh yeah.
And they were, and how proud of the conversation, right? Where they would have spent a lot of years not wanting to hear a damn word that either one of us was saying.
No. Could you imagine me and you hanging out 15 years ago?
Oh, dude.
Our parents have been praying. Our moms have been praying that we don't die.
Dude, I imagine the art thing wouldn't have ever died, though. I mean, we might have killed ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we would have won up in it.
Yeah.
What? You too? Let's go.
I know.
Like, it could have turned into some really ignorant stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, our moms were there that day. Dude, so when I said, because my core is helping people too, and both of the past 10 years of being clean, half of it was working in recovery, and I've worked inpatient, outpatient, and so much other volunteer service shit I can't even think of. So I've done, and that's my core too. So tattooing had to line up with that somehow, and it does. Like one of my favorite artists is DJ. He's like one of the hosts now on Ink Master. And his art is I love his style, but him as a person, he's like, I get to change people's lives because he's so good and can do portraits and stuff like that, right? Which I can't yet, but one day, like that he can give somebody this gift of art on them that changes their lives. I mean, it really can if you're like that, or the experience in total. Just like Dave was saying, our experience. I have a lot of experiences like that with people where it's like, thank you so much for not just the tattoo, like thank you just for hanging out with me for the therapy session. Gets said a lot, or and I feel the same. You know, I get to provide a space for people to do something cool. Art is cool, you know, like as cliche as that sounds, right? It's everything has art. Everything in here, that wall's art. Any little promo has art. Your lift symbol has art. Like it's all, you know, art's important, and it's one of those things that's always been with humans, and I love being able to do it for people and with people. So I think I still get to help people, is what I'm saying. It's in a different way.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, beyond therapeutic, right?
right.
Like we touched that day.
Oh yeah,
on a lot of it, but it went way bigger, deeper than that. You know, we've known each other a long time, but the depths, and it's like, whoa,
yeah,
whoa. And I mean, parts of conversation before we started rolling Aaron today.
yeah.
And then, you know, and that art stuff where it's like, man, right? Like,
Yeah, I went home and told my wife about our conversation. You know what I mean? Because Dave and I were like in passing a lot for the last, you know, several years. But that day was like one of those, you know, when you become good friends with somebody because you sat up till 2 a.m. and talked about everything, that was like that, you know?
Yep.
And those moments are the best for connecting.
Well, Zach, grateful you came on today, man. I miss you.
Yeah.
We need to connect more often.
Yeah, I know. I should just come lift.
Yeah. Lift.
Yeah, I should come do that.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, tune in, like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
DW Brutal.
Yeah.